This is the 21st season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. It's a recorded show today. I'm actually in Southern California, Orange County, with my wife's family. First Christmas as husband and wife together, and then headed to Illinois for my dad's 80th birthday. I don't want to say it's the last BTL show of 2025 because I will be back. We'll be back on the 27th, so maybe 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, maybe slide a season-ending kind of recap show in there today, but wanted to get a cool show in today. One of the benefits of social media is sometimes you just see people that are doing really cool things that you wouldn't have otherwise known about, and then you're able to say, hey, that looked really cool, and they're like, oh yeah, it was, and then you say, hey, you want to come on and talk about it? And one of those things was a couple of veteran professional anglers who went back to school recently. And I see him laughing down there. I was like, you know what? I've heard about it. I know there's guys who do it every year. A lot of guides have to do it depending on where you guide, especially in today's day and age, as more crowded waters and more regulations and restrictions, more eyeballs on you with social media. I know, like, as far as a Bassmaster Opens angler, we have to take a boater safety course and prove that we've gotten that certificate. When I did it last year, I was actually pretty impressed at some of the things you just kind of learn and pick up with it. Like, now there's a bunch of stuff with like ocean offshore stuff that you'll never use, but just buoys, navigational lights, that just that type of stuff, what certain things mean, different whistles, stuff like that, where you're like, oh, that's pretty handy. So when I saw online that Jeremy Lawyer and Mike McClellan, a couple other guys, were going back to school to get their captain's license, I reached out to Jeremy and I had to get him. It's like killing season right now for a bunch of different animals, and then you throw the crappie on top of that. So to get a guy from Missouri out of the woods long enough to get on a show, I think we caught him in between like hunting seasons, and we'll bring him in here to chat about getting his captain's license. Thank you for jumping on, Mr. Lawyer.
Yeah, appreciate you asking me. I'm looking forward to it. You know, it was a different, to say the least, a different environment to go through that. So I'm glad to share any bit of it.
All right, talk about what had you ever had your captain's license before? Had Mike ever had it before? What was the process? How did you guys end up? It looks like it's a pretty tedious process from what I've seen. Like, I saw multiple posts where it was like day 1, day 2, and then as like the process kind of went on, like you guys seemed a little bit more haggard and wary, like college guys again.
Well, I tell you what, it was definitely a very trying effort on both of us. You know, Mike hadn't been in class in I don't know how many years, you know, I don't want to age, but a lot. And so, and for myself, you know, it'd been a lot of years since I sat that many days, you know, coming from my city administrator background. I went to a lot of classes to get certified for different things, from electrical to water to wastewater. And you'd go to a 2-day class, and, you know, in the end, you'd take a test and get certified, and it wasn't a big deal. This was 8 days long. And, you know, there was so much information on it that I didn't even have a clue about. So you really had to tighten up, pay attention. We ran out of a bag of ink pens taking notes, and a lot of them we didn't need, but we didn't know. And you know, honestly, I'm a guy that, just like you said, I come back from Lake Fork day before yesterday. I'm leaving for South Dakota today. I do not sit around a lot. And I sat in a class 8 days. We were standing up, stretching, walking around the parking lot at breaks. I mean, we both got about half stoved up sitting there so long. But it was exciting in the end and pretty gratifying after passing the class. But you were 100% right. There's a lot of stuff we'll never, ever use again. And it got a little frustrating during the class when you're having to learn where you're going to put a ton of oil in a 200-ton tank if you start losing it. And I don't ever plan on driving one. So it was just frustrating on some ends. And we did learn a lot. There's a lot of stuff that, like I say, you'll never use. But in the end, we came out victorious. We passed it. Now into the next steps of of getting everything from a TWIC card to a physical to we did our CPR class while we were there, stayed another extra day. So that made it 9 days. And then hopefully in the end, it's all going to pay off.
So this was the USCG approved captain's course. Is that what you guys did?
Yeah, so it's an OUPV, which allows us to have it's a 6-pack is what they call it. So we can have up to 6 paying customers at one time on our boats. And it's an uninspected vessel. So it would be what you would have to be a typical guide inshore and just have your typical 2-3 paying customers.
Okay. And the way I understand it, that varies wildly from state to state. Even if it's just taking guys out crappie fishing versus bass guiding trips versus inshore trips, saltwater, how many people you have on your boat. Like every state then is different as for what it allows for you to legally guide paying customers, the way I understand it.
Yeah, 100%. I've been doing it a little bit in Oklahoma, and you don't even have to have a captain's license.
Yeah, it's like $90. You get your guide license, you're good to go.
Arkansas is the same way. But being tied with Bass Pro and One Standard Fishing, and we've got some stuff coming down the pipe promotional wise. I didn't want to have a group of people on my boat and possibly something happen, like somebody have a heart attack or just get hurt, some accident that could happen, and not be properly insured or not have the right credentials to where you had the opportunity to possibly save somebody's life or whatever the case might be, just in those situations. So I said, well, let's just do it. Let's get a captain's license and go from there. And then we'll just have it, our I's dotted and our T's crossed and be able to do anything we want to do wherever we want to do it in the U.S.
I mean, it's not cheap, is it? I mean, you're in it. I mean, it's what, $1,000 by the time you're all said and done. And that doesn't include all of like where you're staying and what you're doing during that.
Yeah, it's $1,000 to walk in the door. And then you've got your CPR class. And then you've got, like I say, your room and board. We were lucky enough to stay with some really good friends up there. The Swass always take care of me anytime I'm at the Lake of the Ozarks area, and Mike stayed with us. We had a great time, and had some fellowship in the evening, just playing cards and hanging around. And obviously we studied quite a bit in the evenings, but we found some time to get away from it. And then, just you're eating out. And by the time you do everything, if you've got to travel very far to take it, I know some guys that drove to Texas and took it in the pack, then you just got a lot wrapped up in it. And honestly, more than anything, just the due diligence to be able to stay there for 9 days and do it. Because about 5 days into it, you're like, I think I've about had enough of this, honestly. But it does get a little easier after about the 3rd or 4th day, and they kind of backed it down. We had a really good teacher. He was a guide himself and then also taught the class. So he could kind of see both sides of the fence, and that helped a bunch and everything like that. But I told my wife when I got home, if I came home and you have to re-up it every 5 years, if for some reason 5 years I forget, I don't know that I'll do it again. So,
and then the stuff that's in there, I've seen it, but it's like chart plotting, compass use. Like, what are some of the skills that you came away with?
There's no doubt, they laid a chart out there of the Chesapeake Bay, in nautical miles, both longitude and latitude, and they'd give us a heading or a bearing, and we would have to find a heading to it. And it was intriguing to do that. But on the other hand, you felt like you were pretty much just wasting your time when you can reach on your electronics, zoom out on your GPS and run. So for the average
bass fisherman that's listening to this, do you think there's any advantage in that's a boat owner that's been doing this for a long time, or if you have a son or daughter who's in high school fishing or in college fishing that is getting, do you see any advantage in saying, hey, go spend the time, get your captain's license and do this? I know I would say probably 15% of professional anglers have their captain's license. You think that's an accurate assessment? 15, probably 1 out of 8, 1 out of 10 maybe, or is it kind of a really specialty thing?
No, I think it's probably less than that. I would say it's a specialty thing. I think you are seeing it a little bit more here in the last few years, just because no different than on my radar. I've been fortunate enough to kind of have some success in the fishing world, and then in the backside take a lot of people fishing anyway. And I really enjoy both sides of that. So if you can go ahead and offset some of the expense these days on the road traveling, when you're at home taking some guide trips, I mean, obviously guys have got that on their radar. As far as being beneficial to a young person to take it, I would say it's absolutely not. I would feel like you'd be better off to take your boating course for the
Mm-hmm.
local regulations where you're at, and you would learn more. But I also feel like the discipline it took to take it would absolutely help a young person to be able to understand how important it is, or how safety is important down the road. And then when you do take a group of people out there, they really emphasize the fact that you're the one that's got those people's control of their lives in your hand, or your rig or vessel or whatever it might be in situation, and kind of put it in perspective. And so I definitely think there's benefits, but I think it's going to benefit everyone on an individual level based on their criteria.
And then do you have like a test at the end where it's literally like you walk in for the final, where like you and Mike like fist bump, you walk in and you're like, don't screw this up, buddy. And he's like, yeah, likewise. And then you go in and take it. And then you're like, are sitting in the freaking cafeteria and they come out and they're like, Jeremy Lawyer, pass. And everyone's like, oh, yeah. Mike McClellan, pass. Oh, hell yeah, we're captains.
Well, it wasn't quite like that, but yeah, on the seventh day, in the afternoon, we took the first 50 question test, and you can only miss 5 questions.
Oh my gosh, that's stress.
Yeah, it was quite an ordeal, and so you're stressing about that. And when you get in there and get to taking it, it's just kind of starts coming to you. And as long as you put the effort forward and you study what the criteria of the test is and the materials they give you, it was way easier. I almost took this online at home, but it was 64 hours in front of a computer screen, and I didn't figure I had the discipline.
I'm looking at it right now, $695 and all this stuff, all your devices, flexible learning, but it's kind of like your boater safety course where you have to stay on a page for a specific amount of time before it lets you move on.
Well, that too, but also just the fact of understanding what the material was saying, because it's not verbiage like we would understand. There wasn't a channel swing in there or buoy or no wakes. It was shipping canals and how you entered them through the terminus and things like that. Well, I'm like, what is a terminus? So it's whole different ball wax. I would suggest go to a class if someone is thinking about doing this, and you can look that teacher in the eye, and the teacher said, hey, if you guys get behind, or if you've got a question to understand, raise your hand, we'll back up, we'll make sure you cover it. And we did that quite a little bit, just to make sure that we had it all nipped and tucked. And they went through a really good review every day. And, that worldwide that we went through did a great job prepping you for it. But I'm not going to lie to you. When it was over with, I took that test up there and said, man, this might be just a fuzz ugly on the back end. And it really just wasn't. It was easy to get through as far as like the testing. I think I passed with a 94, and you had to have a 90, so I missed 3.
Do they let you take it again if you fail it?
Well, I didn't ask them that because I didn't go through that, but I'm sure that there is some criteria for that, but I don't know exactly what it is. I know Mike McClellan, he was really sweating it when he took his up there. I could tell he got halfway up there and kind of checked up like, what do I want to finish in yet or not?
I want to go back and maybe think again about some answers.
Yeah, he went ahead and turned back around and went up there and set it down, and the good thing was the teacher graded it right then. They had a pencil that they put over it and said pass or fail. There wasn't anything.
You didn't have to wait, huddle around the chalk whiteboard or when he posted it to see.
No, but I will say again, if you go through the effort and you participate and you get with it, I'm going to guess that if you missed one too many questions or something, they're going to be willing to give you the benefit of the doubt that possibly you didn't understand the way the question read or something like that. Because a lot of times the information we studied wasn't asked or said the same way that we studied or it was presented to us. It might have been the same answer, but it was really tricky. You had to read the question very well. But all in all, it was what it was. It was very stressful. But in the end, we came out and me and Mike both passed, and we're looking forward to what brings next.
Do you think now that you've been through this, you've been through a boater safety course before, you've kind of done all that you can do as far as being prepared to operate a bass boat and apparently an oil tanker in the ocean? Do you think that there should be like a mandatory 1 or 2 day course for the top for a specific level of bass fishing where you go in and it's kind of geared towards the tournament fishing, how you do it. I mean, you're looking at a lot of the high school and collegiate anglers, the co-angling where you're spending time in a boat. There's a lot more guys behind wheels instead of that are fishing as co-anglers. Do you think that it would be beneficial to say, hey, the day before the open, we have a guy come in, every single person has to be there. It's a 4-6 hour course where you kind of go through the basics that everybody knows, but kind of a refresher course, for opens, for invitationals, for elite series, for the BPT? Or is that, since we're all independent contractors, we all know what it is, it's kind of our responsibility to be certified, to be knowledgeable, and if you're not at a certain level, you shouldn't be competing at that level?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, and I don't know that it has to be quite that extreme today, the opens or the elites or something like that, but no doubt everybody gets a driver's license. I think everyone needs a boater safety. When they brought that into Missouri, I don't know what year it was. I was grandfathered because I'd done it long enough. And I went to Maryland. I had to have one anyway, so I went through it up there for the FLW tour. But it was a good program. I think it does help everybody out. And then I think if you are going to fish an upper level league or anything like that, it's almost like you should maybe you'll get your CDL over the road trucking. If you're going to be on that many different bodies of water all over the U.S., you probably do need a second style of license. Now, what that might be, I don't know. Obviously, it doesn't have to be a captain's license by any means, but there's probably should be something around there with like a CDL style on the water license to help all that, because definitely there is a lot of young people, and I'm seeing more issues recreational just around the house here that I've never seen. It's like people don't understand that you can drive that boat 35. It does not have to go 70 everywhere you go. And so you can lug it around a little bit and kind of keep your eyes out. So no doubt, I think you see a lot of that in the younger people. It'd probably be beneficial. No doubt about it.
Yeah. I've taken, I've just thinking over the last 5 and 6 years going in this north, southeast. I mean, I've seen things where there are, big tankers and stuff on there, and you're like, I do not know what that side means, or certain symbols and things where you're like, am I allowed it here? Like you don't know, or you run into situations like, what side are you supposed to pass a ship on? Just certain things, like just different, right of ways and things like that I think are beneficial to do. So it's not something sexy to talk about, but I think it's important to talk about. And I think that's a cool achievement that you earn a congratulations on, both you and Mike.
Yeah, appreciate it. One thing that jumped out at me there while you was talking is they always say which side you pass on, giving way or making way and everything else, and all these boating terms that are more for what I felt like sailboat or ocean terms. And then the last thing they would say is, as long as it's safe. You can negotiate any other option as long as that's to avoid any kind of incident and it's safer. So really, it meant to me, just pass wherever you can as long as it's safe. It doesn't have to. There's no right or wrong way to pass a boat if that's the case. So I think some of it's based on a lot of criteria. And some of these shipyards, I guess, coming into them, when you've got all these big ships that can't turn fast and everybody's zooming around them, I'm sure there's a lot that's a rat race around those. We just don't see it in our world.
The lights, I remember when I went through it last year, what we had to for the opens is, you run a lot in dusk, you run a lot early in the morning. There's a lot of times where you put in at a different boat ramp and then travel to where the takeoff is, and just understanding the lights on the different vessels, not bass boats where it's like the, red and green or the bow light, but, if there is a sailboat that's anchored or a commercial ship or something like that, you can literally tell like which way they're headed. Are they moored? Are they anchored? Where are they going? What are they doing based on their lights, based on how it's positioned? And I thought, to me, I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Then I can tell, oh, there's a sailboat that's anchored, a quarter mile up, or there's a big vessel that's coming at me, or one that's going away from me, because, when you are running in the dark like that, we have the GPS and all that, but I thought the light stuff was cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of that on there. And I understand it if you're not familiar with some of that, but they even had submarines on there. I've never ran into a submarine.
You got a submarine day?
I don't know how beneficial that was.
I was, where was I reading about this story about this net trawler? They were doing like submarine training, and the submarine wasn't supposed to be in that area. They were supposed to be 1,000 yards from the nearest netting. And then the submarine like came up, it got caught in the nets. Then all of a sudden it appeared and it actually drug that. Then a submarine went back down. It got caught in the nets and then it drugged the damn boat completely underwater with them.
Dang.
Yeah. Could you imagine you're just out there freaking trolling for shrimp or whatever you're trolling for, and all of a sudden you catch a dang submarine?
Well, I don't know if I've ever seen one somewhere, but I would love to see one just one time to say that it was beneficial in that class, I guess.
Where do we fish where we fish where there's a potential that we run over fishing around a submarine? They're on the Great Lakes, aren't they?
I wouldn't have a clue. I've never even seen one docked before or anything.
Are there submarines like on Ontario and Lake Michigan and Huron and all that?
I don't know. The closest thing I've probably seen to one's a manatee, just a little short guy. So
I wonder if there are. 1 second. We have this thing called Google. Yes, there are submarines on the Great Lakes, particularly Lake Michigan, although they are rarely seen. The U.S. Navy has utilized the Great Lakes. They're known as German submarine UC-97s that reach Lake Superior. Currently, there are no known submarines operating in the Great Lakes, but the new U.S. Navy submarine named Minnesota has been commissioned.
Yeah, I don't know. That's news.
So in our lifetime, we have not fished a fishery where you could be, drop shotting and then live scope a submarine.
Well, that would be something to see on the scope.
Dude, that would be nuts. 100 feet out. All right, let's talk about some fishing stuff here now that you're all certified and you're ready to go. 4 years on the Bass Pro Tour, 2022 to 2025. Making a change this year to the Bassmaster Opens. Talk a little bit about that decision and what you're looking forward to in 2026.
Well, I can tell you the most important thing that I'm looking forward to in 26 is throwing 5 in a box and going across the stage. When I was a kid and watched FLW on TV and Bassmaster, that's what got me all fired up. That's what made me want to try and do it for 25 years to get to the point to fish the FLW Tour in 16, was the fact of that kind of a atmosphere and everything you went through. I kind of fed off of that. And the FLW Tour was great. I loved it, and I had some success, won the tour at Grand Lake and had several top 10s and just was able to make a living and catch some bass when I needed to when I first started and be consistent. And then when that was sold and the Major League Fishing bought it and they changed the game, to catch all you can, the year I qualified, the first year they opened it up to qualifiers through the FLW Tour, which was the pro circuit at the time. It was a no-brainer to go to it.
Mm-hmm.
It was no entry fees. They paid all 80 anglers, and it was a group of 70 anglers that I had never fished against because they all came from Bass to start it. I had never fished against Kevin Van Dam or Terry Scroggins or Casey Ashley because they were on that side of the fence. And so that was very exciting to me to try to just go head to head against some of those anglers that you never had before. And I think it showed in my fishing that first year. I mean, I was fired up trying to catch all you can. And also live scope was a tool that you used for structure and boat positioning. It was not a tool that you used to go out there and thermal bass over open water. Nobody was doing that yet. And so you had about 70% intuitional fishing,
Mm-hmm.
off your and ideas and the way you like to fish. And then you use that kind of as a tool in your arsenal. And then we went to
the 5 fish in 23.
Yeah, the next year we went to 5 fish. And that was even more exciting because I found out the very first year that the catch all you can was unbelievable stressful. If you were not catching them, and if you were catching them, you never could catch enough in a day's time to ever feel comfortable. Yeah. You had to absolutely go 100%. And even that year, that first year, I made the cut into the knockout round, the last guy, I think 3 times. So 3 events that year, I was the last guy to get in. And I was absolutely scratching and clawing to catch everything I could. And so when we went to 5, then you could go back and kind of blend the two to where you were fishing against this new group of anglers. We're going to catch 5 biggins. Started off in Florida, and I won a round and then finished in the top 10 to start the year at Toho. And it was just fun going back to hunting and packing, trying to catch a 6, 7, 8 pounder. And then the league just changed it back. They didn't ask us for anything. We voted to make it 5, and then they just changed it back. And that was kind of the start of a revolution against the anglers, with the anglers, how you want to look at it, against the league. That was the first time that I saw this group of anglers kind of balk a little bit that started the league. And so I was just kind of quiet and off to the sides, because I was not a guy that had any skin in the game as far as an owner or started the league. I just was a guy that was fortunate enough to qualify and continue to make a living in the industry. But it took away a lot of inspiration to continue to fish that league, just from my standpoint, because when we went back to Catch All You Could, it became, the scope period was the biggest period, bar none. If you weren't a super scoper, then you probably weren't going to do as well as you ever could have before. And you could see some of the anglers thinking the same thing I was. And then they said they're going to cut to 50 anglers and knock the league, down a third. And morale just changed, and everybody's atmosphere changed. And I went ahead and fished it, and it was fine. But you could tell, I could tell in my personal fishing that I was not enjoying it. Things were not the same. I did have some issues with just things out of my control that kept me from doing as well as I could have on the water, mechanically, and different things. And so it just kind of turned into that. And I almost didn't fish it the next year. I just told my wife, we're back to spending, $50,000 on entry fees, or 40, whatever it was. And then you had your expenses, and you had to get so many checks to get paid. And I had some partners that really wanted me to continue to fish it, that were backing me. And so we all just kind of agreed, let's do it one more year. But then partways through the year last year, I made my mind up that I was over 100 pounds and 21 years old, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And if I have some partners that want to support it, then that's great, and we'll continue to do something else. And if I don't, then that's fine too. I understand. I appreciate everything they did in the past. And so that's where it kind of came out this year. I started talking with my partners in April. I said, there's no way I'm doing it again. This is how it's going to be. And so I was fortunate enough to keep 3/4 of those. I did lose a little bit, and it was just the direction that I went, and they weren't really focused that direction, and that's fine. But this year, going into 2026, when I walked away the last day that you could turn in your deposit money for the Bass Pro Tour, and I texted Daniel Fennell and said, just go ahead and give my spot to the next guy in line, which I believe was Dylan Hayes. I said, I'm not coming back. Well, he instantly called me, and we visited for a minute. And I've spent my entire career at FLW, or Major League Fishing. I fished my first event in 2003. And so I said, I've never been to Bass, but I'm fixing to find out. And I'm not going to say they've got everything figured out over there, but I love the idea of the opens going through to the EQs. You're catching them, putting them in a box, bringing them across the stage. I feel like the social media presence will be a lot greater for me personally, that I can give to my partners back. There was some of that got discontinued on the Bass Pro Tour for a lot of the anglers, and I was definitely one of them. And so it's just kind of getting me to a mental reset, and I am absolutely going to be ready to go when we get to Rayburn and fish the way that I grew up fishing, and what actually drove me to become a professional angler in the first place.
Yeah, it's interesting. You look, that 2019, 2021 on the pro circuit. I mean, you have not had in the past decade a bad year of a 5-fish limit season. I mean, you're 11th in the points, 21, 8th in the points. That's out of 120 to 150 anglers. Then your first 2 years of the BPT, you talked about that 22 year, 14th, 26, made the red crest. And then, those last 2 years when it went back to every fish catches. Do you think you fish both formats now? The opens are half and half, forward facing, no forward facing. Do you think it is easier to keep pace with what you call the super scopers in a 5-fish limit more so than in every fish counts format? If a guy who is predominantly not open water scoping versus guys who are, what's easier to keep pace with, the guys when it's every fish counts, or the guys who it's just 5?
Well, there's no doubt the guys that just 5 is easier because say I want to go flip a boat dock on a jig on a boat. I can't catch very many of them, but when I catch one, it's the right kind that you're going to put in the box. You can keep pace with those, even though they're going to go out there and catch a lot more than you are. The ones that you're going to bring in 5 definitely show. And I did that last year at Murray. The guys was catching a ton of fish out there scoping. I went up the river, threw the spinner bait, and flipped a jig and a chatterbait. And I had 22 to 24 pound bags every day, but I was able to squeak out a check at the Bass Pro Tour just because there was not that many quality fish being caught, and I was able to just run the numbers. But had that been a 5 fish tournament, instead of just squeaking in a check, I would have been a top 5 or top 8 bag, right there on stage. So I think definitely it is, but also like on the Bass Pro Tour, you can't go flip a jig anymore and keep up. You can't go fish old school and keep up because they are going to absolutely outrun you. So you have to make the scope period work. And it just didn't, I just didn't enjoy it. It's not that I couldn't go out there and catch my fair share at times too, but there was other times I was like, you know what? I want to go do this. I've done this for 20 years. I want to go throw a rock crawler up the river. I know I can catch 18 pounds, but it didn't matter because they was going to catch 35 during their
That's a great point.
scope. Yeah, their scope period. And it's nothing on them. And I didn't want to change that. I like the way I fished. I like when I walk into my shop and I see my tackle organization the way that I want to go fish a tournament. And the Bass Pro Tour definitely does not allow you to fish the way you want. And I just didn't enjoy it. And so I'm looking forward to the opens. I'm not going to say that the scope events are there. A guy won't get the best of you scoping. They probably will be one scoping. But I feel like on a competition side, you can still compete, make a top 10, fishing the way you want to fish.
100%.
And then hopefully some of the partner baits that I have, like for instance, a Zoom brush hog, you can go back and throw now because the fact that you're trying to catch big ones and not numbers. And so we'll see what happens. But I'm really looking forward to the fact that I can go fish the way I want to. And, I fished the Toyota Series this year to come to Grand Lake to fish the championship. And I think I finished 9th in the wild card division in the points. And it was really fun. For example, at Kentucky Lake, I went out the first day, probably had 15 keepers, and I had 18 pounds or so. And the second day I came in and I had 15 pounds, and my team partner, Chris Macy, so we had another good day. I said, well, I'll tell you what, I only caught 5 today. I had 5 keepers and they weighed 15 pounds. But I said, if that would have been a Bass Pro Tour event, I would have fell from 8th where I was sitting at
and 60th.
50th
40, yeah.
At the bottom.
Yeah.
And so instead, I made the top 25 cut at the same place. I think I started the day in 8th and ended the day in 8th, or somewhere right there around the top 10. And you just can't really do that at the Bass Pro Tour level and fish for 5. And so I just, I think it was a blessing to get the opportunity to do that over there and experience and see it. But it just really wasn't my cup of tea. And rather than sit there just to be relevant in the sport, I'm going to try and be relevant a different way. So
bet on yourself. So here's one thing, Jeremy, that I haven't heard anyone talk about. They recently announced the EQ schedule, which are the 3 final, the top 50 in Division 1, Division 2. Points will be 0, and then they'll fish the 3 EQs. Division 2 mixed with the EQs. I'm going to name off 5 lakes that are on this schedule. So if you finish in the top 50 and you make it, every once in a while, one of the organizations will put together just a ridiculous lineup. And I think this has been overlooked over the past couple months. This is one of the most ridiculous lineups of fisheries, because I'm fishing Division 2 as well, that I cannot wait to get to. You're talking about the Yankee stadiums, the Wrigley fields of bass fishing. You have Grand Lake, Sam Rayburn, Kentucky Lake, Toledo Bend, and Gunnersville. The guys who make the Elite Series through these EQs, look at that gauntlet of historic fisheries. That is one hell of a schedule that's coming up in 26. There's also the Mississippi River mixed in, Norfolk Lake mixed in. But dude, that is, in my opinion, like grand Rayburn, Kentucky, Toledo, Gunnersville. You're not launching your boat on any of those lakes. Those are some of the most historic lakes in the country. Take Florida out of it. God bless them. I love Florida. Couldn't be happier to not be going there. Get my ass kicked every time I go there. Nothing against it. It's fantastic. I love going down there. But from a tournament venue, like, name any more historic lakes. We get to fish all of those this year if you make the EQs.
So what are the 3 EQ lakes then? I have not seen this.
Norfolk. Oh, you haven't seen the 3 EQ lakes?
I have not. I didn't know they released them.
Let me just read you the press release. So they have not announced which ones are scope. So one of the first 2 will be scope, one will be without scope, and then the last one they'll flip for. So the 3 EQ lakes are September 23rd through 25th on Norfolk Lake in Mountain Home, Arkansas. That 100% depends on whether it's scope or not. If it's a scope, it's 100% a scope tournament. If it's not, you're going to see all sorts of wild stuff up the river. You come in with 5 decent ones, you're a freaking rock star that time of the year.
Yeah.
October 21st through 23rd on Toledo Bend. So this is interesting because one of these will be scope, one will be not. So if you don't have scope on Toledo Bend, then that completely opens up that lake that time of the year for some crazy stuff too and historical fisheries. But that means we'll have it on Norfolk. But if you don't have it on Norfolk, then that means you will have it on Toledo Bend. So it's kind of a catch-22 there. But Norfolk, Toledo Bend, and then it concludes November 11th through 13th on Lake Gunnersville is the final event. So that's where everyone from both divisions will know who the 10 guys are, and they're going to do a coin flip to determine whether or not that's a scope event.
Okay. Yeah,
that's pretty badass. That's badass schedule, Jeremy. Grand, Rayburn, Kentucky, Toledo, Gunnersville, all in one season in the opens to make the Elite Series. And you know that, I mean, Gunnersville, Gunnersville is the, like, Toledo and Gunnersville. Like, I mean, you put Toledo, Gunnersville, Okeechobee, and the St. Lawrence River. In my opinion, like, those are probably the big 4 in the country for historic tournament venues, some more so than others. But can you get any bigger than Toledo and Gunnersville in the pantheon of tournament bass fishing to end the EQs on, Jeremy?
No, and those are 2 great lakes to absolutely power fish on. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes with the coin flip and the forward-facing nod.
There's a chance that both of them are scope, and there's a chance that both of them are no scope, and then there's a chance that one of them scope.
Yeah,
I could tell your wheels are working. You didn't know that. You're literally sitting there just like your wheels are turning in your head.
They are. I'll think about that all the way to South Dakota today. So, I mean, no, that is, I mean, it's all going to play out to what they tell us on the scope.
Yeah. Will that change how you fish? Like, will you, if it is a scope on Norfolk, are you one of those guys? I know you're comfortable with it. I know how to use it. Will you go try to grind something, or will you be like, screw it, I'm on bait fish down lake. That's just what it is. That's how the best way it's going to catch it. That's why I can catch my best 5. And I'm going to go play that game in this tournament, even though it's not what I want to do.
Yeah. The way I'm kind of looking at it is the first 4 events of the year, you need to be consistent, and you can just fish kind of your strength and be consistent. Mm-hmm. Like the EQ. But when you get to those 3 EQs, you better do whatever you have to do in order to finish as high as you can finish. So if that's what it takes to go do it, then yes, that's what I'll go do.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the guys, like, I mean, it shocked me that Michael Neal didn't make it this year, but it is a gauntlet, not only to make the top 50, but then for everything to go right in those EQs, you make one misstep, and there's enough anglers that you've either heard of or haven't heard of. Russ Lane made it this year, but we're seeing these guys that are just, I mean, it is not an easy task. And some of the guys who have been through it, the Hackneys, the Jason Christies, I'll even throw Scott Martin. You saw Ike Anelli go back through it. Those guys like have gone through and done it in 1 year, show why they have the titles. They have the $1 million of earnings. They have the Angler of the Years. They have the major sponsors. Michael Neal's a top 5 guy in the world, in my opinion.
100%.
And 100%. For him to go through it and just have little, I mean, he fished well. It's not like he sucked or had anything happen. He fished well and didn't make it. Was just a testament as to how difficult it is to actually go through all 7 of those events.
Yeah, and Gunnersville will probably be, to give you an example, maybe about Michael Neal, is he had 19 something a day at Champlain, and it took 21 something a day to get you over the hump. Where we go to Gunnersville, and you have a 19-pound day, there's a very good chance that there again, it doesn't get you over the hump. You could have a good bag 15, 16 and finish way back in the pack, and it just kills you. So the guy's going to have to get fortunate and have the right bites at the right places.
There's very few guys who have been in the industry as long as you have and fish as many tournaments and have as many accolades as you have without dabbling with both tours. You fish like a team series and a couple little things with bass, but no opens, no tours back in the day, nothing. You literally don't have a open level tournament on your resume with bass. Over the past 20 years, has there been a draw like, man, I really would like to cross that classic stage? Man, I really would like to maybe get a shot at a blue trophy like that. Is there an excitement that you're coming in probably as the most established vet in this sport right now, who has been FLW MLF exclusive without at least dabbling for a jackpot tournament or fishing them for a year or jumping in, a top 150 back in the 2000s?
Well, I was so focused on just trying to be successful at the FLW side that I really didn't focus a lot on the bass, just because I was kind of established with FLW. And then, as that got sold and everything, I'm not going to lie, I've looked at it for multiple times, but they made it, when the guys left Bass and built the Bass Pro Tour, they made it where you could not fish both sides of the fence, both bass and major
they
fishing.
Wanted to make you make a decision.
Yeah, they made you choose. And so I didn't have the option to fish both like a lot of those guys did when the FLW was first going. They would work with bass and have open schedules to where guys could fish both bass and FLW. And that just never been the case since I came along and have been at the top level. So it kept you from doing it, even if you wanted to. But there's no doubt, when I went to the Forest Wood Cup and I made the top 10 at Ouachita and at Wheeler the first year I made it, and saw the red carpet, saw the confetti, saw Thrift win, saw Cox win. I mean, it got you fired up for next time and this and that. And when I went to the Red Crest, I really just didn't see that. It was a different atmosphere. You just dropped your official off and then you went back to the motel on the parking lot. And I really got it on my radar then. Like, the Classic was more like the old FLW. That's what I fed off of. That's what drove me. I mean, I don't want to be away from home. I would rather be at home nights with my family. But that right there drove me to want to cross that stage. And so the last couple of years, seeing that and everything, absolutely, the Classic's been on my radar. But I was kind of handcuffed where I was at. So if it was ever going to happen, my wife and I decided that I'm going to have to take them handcuffs off and take a leap of faith of either gambling on myself or just the fact that it's either meant to be or not meant to be. But the idea of actually winning one of the opens and making it to the Classic gives you a couple of different avenues. I mean, I may not ever make the elites, but I'm still going to fish as hard as I can in every one of the opens to try and make the Classic. And hopefully, you said some of that stuff about the accolades and veteran status. Hopefully some of that's going to help me a little bit with some of the pressures and some of the fishing conditions along the way. I hope we get some diverse conditions. I don't want to see a bunch of days canceled this year. I'm a guy that needs to have.
I echo that.
Yeah, days to kind of adjust.
Just 5 days last year, so.
Yeah, so I want to see everybody get a fair go at it, and I hope we get that. But I hope we get maybe some rising water, or we get some conditions that are changing to where it's not just a day to go out there and go fishing. You're going to have to use your brain and experience to kind of get a pump. But we'll see what happens.
I'm going to translate what Jeremy just said. He is by far and away the odds-on favorite on Grand Lake at the end of April to have a shot at win and go to the Bassmaster Classic. And what he's saying is, I hope it's not stable conditions and I get beat by bedfish. I want it to be a total shit show out there because you know how to adjust and you could go do your thing and come in with 20 pounds with no scope on the table and use your masterful expertise on Grand to piece together 3 different days and blow everybody out of the water and not get beat on one stretch of frickin' bank.
Well, not quite like that, but yeah, you're looking around on the right side. There's no doubt it's definitely might play out just like what you said, and it may be the fact that there's so many laying up on the bank that you can just go down through there and catch them. But yes, the year I won the tour event, it was cold, and we had a big cold front come in, and it was hard to get bites, and I was the only guy out of a 155 guy field that caught 5 every day. If Cox would have caught 5 the third day, he would have beat me. If the South African would have caught 5 on the first day, he would beat me. But I just
mixture of jig and spinner bait, like one of the most masterful combinations in that spinner bait that you were doing was you were catching fish that you were the only angler in the field who could catch those fish because I feel like I covered that event. I worked that event for FLW. I feel like you understood how, why, and where you were throwing that spinner bait. Very Jason Christie like back in the classic, whereas most guys that we were watching were just going down, going, damn, I hope there's one on this dock.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, but I think a lot of that's been exposed too since then. I think definitely, I definitely opened a can of worms there. And then Jason Christie with the classic being there, and Edwin showing a little bit of diversity up the river and different things. I think a lot of that's been exposed, but there's no doubt if we can get some conditions that make you fish the conditions at that moment, it would definitely be in my favor, and that's what I would hope for. But you say that I'm a favor or something. I made the championship at Grand for the Toyota Series, and then I broke down at takeoff day 2 and didn't even get to fish the second day and was taken plumb out of the game.
I didn't know that.
Anything like that could happen, to where it just takes you out of the game. That's out of your control. So I just hope this year that I get to have some control over what happens around me, and then make good decisions and then capitalize on them. And that's what it's going to take to just make it right there at the very end. Because when we get down to Guntersville, the last one, a guy that's way behind could definitely catch up, just because that will be probably a slugfest tournament if I was guessing.
You think you'll have a little nerves? Like, I mean, I feel like it's been probably a while since you've had a little pregame jitters, little pre-launch jitters waiting there for your number to be called the first morning, first open, first morning at Sam Rayburn. You think it'll feel a little bit different than it has been for the last 20 years?
100%, because I missed takeoff. At the Bass Pro Tour, they just say, there you go, and you might be in a truck driving to go put, and then there's no coming back to check in, on time and different things. That's what kind of fired me up about the Toyota Series this year, is I had all that again, and I'm feeding off of it. I like that aspect of the sport. That was part of it. I felt like I was kind of at a senior citizen VIP night, whenever we just drive down the road, try to run, we just drove down the lake and put in where it was calm. And I'm like, man, I don't know. Part of that's your strategy too. Can I fish? Can I make it the first day down there? What the conditions are going to be? And so, yes, I think for the first time, I don't know that Rayburn I'll have jitters or anything like that. Maybe the first EQ I might have jitters a little bit, but I will be looking forward to getting out there and trying to catch them. Where not that I did before, not that I didn't look forward to trying to catch them, but I just felt like I knew I didn't have a big enough group of fish to do well, possibly at the Bass Pro Tour. So it kind of takes a little bit of fire out of you. Like, man, I'm gonna go catch me 12 today, but it's gonna take 20 a day to get a check. And so it's gonna be a different atmosphere, a different mindset, and there's gonna be a different array of baits. I'm gonna have baits that I have not had on my deck the last 2 years at the Bass Pro Tour, out and hook sharp, and
you willing to say a couple of those? Just categories, crankbaits.
Yeah, let's just say, for instance, a big jig, just a 5/8.
Oh yeah, that's your jam.
I would throw a jig at the Bass Pro Tour. It would be one or two casts right here. Maybe you throw a jig on scope if it was a brush pile or something. But just lock that big sucker in your hand and know that if you put in enough good haunts, you're gonna get five big ugly ones that suck it in. Yeah, exactly. If I can keep this where it needs to be for the next 3 hours, I'm gonna get 3 bites, and they're gonna weigh 15 pounds. And that's just how. But I couldn't do that. I had to go try to do something else because I knew I couldn't catch enough bites. And so I'm looking forward to the fact that the bite ratio, if I only get 6 today, they still might weigh 20.
Yeah. The thing that I explain, and I'll get an email or a DM occasionally that's like, hey, why the hell are you fishing the opens? You give it up, focus on the damn podcast. You suck. But it's the freaking moment. And sometimes it lasts for 2 or 3 tournaments. Sometimes it goes to the last one of the year. Sometimes it's just the first tournament. If you bomb it, because out of the opens, you tank one and you're kind of out of it. But it's that execution moment where it may not be the biggest fish. It may not be the coolest fish bite, but you know you're in it and you make a decision and you have that split second where you go, this is where the execution matters. And you're hooked up with the fish and you know that fish keeps your dream alive for another day. And
100%.
it's that feeling of landing that fish, or it's that adrenaline rush of losing that fish and then making up for it that day when you still have everything ahead of you and it's all on the line. You make a decision and it pans out. You cannot duplicate that in a tournament where you're not fishing for anything above it, in something where it's not a life or death fishing wise situation. It's those moments that keep me signing up for the opens year after year.
100%. You know, at Saginaw Bay this year, I was right at the check line, maybe just a fuzz below it to make, and I had like 17 or 18 scorables that first day, which for me, if I catch 3 limits of fish, that's a lot. That's pretty good for me. I'm not a guy that go catches, 30 or 40 keepers a day. I don't care what you're doing. But I started the second day, and the very first bite I had weighed like 4.4, and my second one weighed 3.12 or something. And my official said those are 2 big fish for Saginaw Bay largemouth. And I said, well, it doesn't matter. Like, instead of these 2 anchoring your bag to where you can get you an upper teen bag and make this enormous jump, I mean, I'm still 25 pounds behind right
You're
now.
getting out smallmouthed.
Yeah. And so I said, man, this is just, that right there was almost like, I might as well just go put it on the trailer. I'm so aggravated at this format, and I was ready to just not be at the Bass Pro Tour anymore because of that. Yeah. Because I still went ahead and caught 15 or 18 keepers again that day and had a good day on the water, but I was still 15, 18 pounds out of the check line. But if you'll go back and watch the 2016 All-American at Barkley Lake, when I catch that 5th one on the final day, and it's a 4-pounder, the moment that I knew I just won the All-American is a feeling I can never explain to anybody on this show, and I hope I get to live again. But it was absolutely the most emotional feeling at that minute, because I knew that fish right there was no way Drew Boggs was going to catch me now. It was a done deal. We're going to the Cup. And next to maybe my daughter being born or seeing something like that, I was absolutely on top of the world. And I don't think I will ever have that feeling again if I'm not fishing for 5, knowing that fish made a difference.
That's well stated. Yeah, I remember watching, just this year, buddies with Austin Cranford. He just made it here, and he's on live on that second day at Okeechobee, and he catches that 6-pounder. And when it jumps, you can literally see in his brain, he realizes, with what I had yesterday, and if I land this fish and make it back to weigh-in, I am 100% in the Elite Series.
Yeah.
And that's all he has lived for the last 5 years. I mean, he lives it, he breathes it, sleeps it. That's 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. And it didn't surprise me, but it was cool watching that and just watching him get his hands on that fish. And he has that moment where he's like, oh my God, it just freaking happened.
Yeah.
Like you can't replace that, because it's a feeling that is not given. It is a feeling that is earned.
100%. Yep. For sure. Yep.
All right. We're going to see a lot more of you on BTL and a lot more of you on CTL heading into the new year. CTL taking a little bit of a hiatus in December, ramping it back up in January, where we teach bass anglers how to catch giant crappie. Title sponsored by One Standard, one of your I guess you're a sponsored crappie angler as well, Jeremy Lawyer.
Well, I am. I partnered with One Standard, and I've had a lot to do with designing some of the baits and colors and different things. We've got a whole team of guys that work together and are great. I kind of seem to have more time on my hands and try to bring some of the aspects of the bass industry bait wise into the crappie industry to set the bar a little higher, and we've kind of done it. We've got some really cool stuff coming out, but yeah, one standard has been something that has been a real eye opener for me as far as just a refresher, fun. I love to catch crappie year round. If I'm home off the road, I'm probably not bass fishing. I'm probably crappie fishing. And this guide, captain's license, probably going to guide into a lot of that more as you see it come down the pipe. We're going to do some promotional stuff. We're going to have some one standard experiences with people with me where we give away product into the outdoor brand team. Focuses on their brands to put together a package to fish with me and walk away with something from all the brands. And it's just a really cool opportunity, but it's been a lot of fun. One Standard's got some really neat stuff coming.
Looking forward to dealing with you. You're big in the dock shooting, the double rig, catching a bunch of ways that I don't catch them. I also want to get you in the boat. And with these 15, 16-foot rods, basically consider it like punching on Okeechobee with a 2-ounce weight and an 8-foot flip stick catching. I saw you boxed one over 2 1/4 the other day.
I did it. We went to Fork and we went blind, just went to film a show and just kind of got out there like anybody would, and wanted to kind of do it off the cuff. And we ended up only having 17, but we had multiple 2-pounders and it was a lot of fun. Just catching the quality fish over numbers. Because typically around the house here, we might catch 60 to 100 in a day, but we're not even going to have a 2-pounder.
And I'm just the opposite. I might catch 10 to 12 in a day, but 10 of those will be over 2 1/4.
Yeah, I could relate to that now. And I've been watching you and Zeke on your shows and everything with CTL, and that's very intriguing to me. I like the setups and the way it is. The rod positioning behind your back and stuff.
Dude, that was a legit 3-pounder that he lost.
Yeah.
That was such a big fish. I mean, I would assume that's what the equivalent of a 10 or 11-pound bass.
Yeah, that is definitely a fish.
I would love to get. Have you messed with the long rods yet?
I have a couple Denali rods that are 10 and 12 foot, and I have played around with them at Truman, some up at Stockton, just in pole trees, just kind of getting familiar with it. But I'm really more intrigued with the even longer ones.
Oh, yeah.
More of a beefier setup, because I haven't done the 1/4-ounce tungsten above my jig. I've just poured some heavier jigs to offset that a little bit, and it's really intriguing to me. I'll be all game for it one day.
That's very cool. The other day when I was out and filming, I have some stuff I haven't put out yet. I ended up taking that One Standard with the eye on the bottom of the jig, the double dropper, and they would literally swim past the jig and eat the weight. And I said, I got something for these suckers. And I tied that on and they would swim past, eat it, and I'd catch them on the top. The only problem is when you catch one on the bottom, you go to grab your line, you're every single time dangerously close to the old sickle hook in the palm. But other than that, I'm pretty excited for the rest of the filming of CTL. I got the new DJI Osmo 3 or the DJI Mic 3s and the Osmo Action 5s and stuff all lined up. So, we're gonna have a lot of cool stuff coming in January. We're doing a trip. I'm gonna get in the boat with you. You're gonna get in the boat with us. I'm got a couple trips lined up to where we're gonna try to crack the 3.5 pound mark around the house. So I know that sounds ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I have no idea if it'll happen, but those giant crappie are just like bass. Once you get over that 2.5 pound mark, I'm not a hunter. I know you are. I would assume it's like when a different class of deer walks out, there's just no relating it to a good deer.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And, I've never caught a 3-pound crappie. I caught one time that weighed around 212, and we tried to weigh him a couple of times, and that's about what we could get out of him. So it was 2 pounds, 12 ounces. And
we got to try to knock that out this year then.
Absolutely. I'm all game for it.
On the minnow one.
Absolutely. I guarantee you that thing will catch him.
All right. I appreciate you pulling over, taking time as you head to the Dakotas.
Yeah, we're going to go
pheasant hunting in the Dakotas. So thank you very much. I will see you on the road, or I will see you at Rayburn. I'll see you before Rayburn while we crappie fish, and then I'll see you at Rayburn. We should just crappie fish at Rayburn. Last time I was there for the Open, I wasted a solid half day throwing a mooch minnow at a 25-foot brush pile. Every single one of them was a 2+ pounder. I was like, what am I doing bass fishing?
Yeah, I always catch some at Toledo Bend and Rayburn and a lot of those southern lakes out there floating with the bass. They'll be an old big loner, and it'll be a 2+. Yeah,
I basically wasted, you can show I finished 100. I didn't know it'd be a one-day tournament. I spent a quarter of the day catch a giant crappie, and then I realized that all those floaters in the top of the trees were those alligator gar. And dude, I'll tell you what, you put a 7-inch minnow on an 1/8 ounce head and slowly reel it over those alligator guard. You will have a 6 to 8 foot thing on the end of your line every single cast.
Yeah.
And it's addictive. It's so much fun.
Did you one in?
I got it. Yeah, I got him all the way up to the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to that's big enough to where you have to lasso. And then I got all screwed up because I caught like 4 or 5 alligator gar. And then like the 6th one was like a 10.5 pound bass. So then I was totally screwed up because it looked just like the gar. And then I ended up in the I had no idea what do I do. So then I ended up in the tournament just casting to a lot of gar and then finally bailed and caught 13 pounds. But it was poor life decision on my part there. But yeah, alligator gar on Rayburn are pretty fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but there again, if you'd had a second day where you could have went and caught you another 13 pounds, you might have leapfrogged a bunch of guys.
You're probably the only guy that's ever been on the show that's won money off a gar.
Yeah, there you go. I have won money a lot of different trash fish. If there's a trash fish category, it absolutely throws me off my game. I 100% go trying to catch 20 pounds to how do we win that trash fish category?
Dude, you had an alligator. You had was it a longnose or an alligator at Table Rock there, strapped to the back deck, the back seat post with a bungee cord to win the big fish trash pot, the OBT media event.
We did. We won us 2 flat stone grills. So
with the car.
That was, what's really bad is the second day we couldn't hardly catch any bass. And I said, let's go see if we can cull up our trash fish and see if we can catch a bigger one. And we caught 20, but we didn't catch one bigger than that one. And I don't remember what that one weighed, but it was really big for a long nose gar. It was, 4.5, 5 foot long. So. Yeah,
I was with Dave Rush and we got into those mega, those giant white bass, which are some of the biggest white bass in the country. And I said, by God, I said, we might be able to, we got shot the trash fish pot here. And he's like, dude, we need to focus on bass. The trash fish pot's already won. And I said, what do you mean? He's like, dude, lawyers in this field. He goes, we're not wasting a second trying to catch a giant trash fish because we will not beat him. He's like, you will not beat Jeremy Lawyer on the trash fish category. That's done. We're not wasting any time trying to catch any of these giant floating things that we see because whatever he brings in will be bigger than everyone else's combined.
We had more fun that day catching all those gar because we probably caught 25 or 30 the first day when we caught that giant one, but we had so much more fun than stretching our line. There's a good chance that if I do get out there and get to guiding full time, I'm going to offer some gar trips because if you want to go catch a freshwater tarpon, that's the closest thing you're going to get. They'll come out there and jump head over heels and everything else and absolutely scream the drag. They're a lot of fun to catch.
Now, will you backstrap those and give them the little lines in the back to make gar balls out of?
I don't know that I'd do that or not. That's going to be a real specific. We eat them around here when we get a chance to bow fish them or something. We'll save a few, but you've got to really like fish or have the temperament that you can wash it down with a beer quick to eat those.
They're not. Is there any fish that you'll never eat again that you've given a fair shot? Freshwater fish.
No, I'm not necessarily opposed to too much of anything. As far as the fish goes, there's just better things out there to eat. It's kind of like a hot dog. You can eat any of them, but sometimes there's better stuff to eat.
That's fair. Last question. How's the squirrel derby doing? Are you still?
I tell you what, they had it on Sunday and we had to leave for Lake Fork on Sunday.
Oh no.
Send our title and, it was just one of those things I had to go film and it took precedence. And so I've caught a lot of flack from a lot of buddies and I kind of gave them a hard time about not having enough weight to really do well this year, but there was some really big bags of squirrels weighed in this year. And, there was a lot more squirrels killed this year than typically because we had a perfect high sky, cold morning day. A lot of guys killed limits right out of the gates. And so it was a good event.
And what's the limit?
What's that now?
Is it a 5 squirrel limit?
No, so it's a 12 squirrel limit. You get 6 reds and 6 grays.
Yep, that's right. It's not an every squirrel counts. It's a six reds and 6 grays, and then it's the first 6 that you kill of each species. You put them on a Bubba scale, weigh it, and the winner gets it, just like a friggin' bass tournament.
Yeah, so your limit of squirrels, you got to be careful a little bit just because you don't want to get into wanting waste and all that. So we've been doing it long enough. If we don't think it's a red squirrel that's going to lick around on 2 pounds, we'll just let him roll on. It's kind of like picking out a deer. If he won't score, 130, you're not going to shoot him, whatever it might be. But so same way with the grays. If we're starting to figure out just a year-old gray, he won't. If he's in your bag, you're going to lose anyway. So you might as well wait till you see a 2 or 3 year old gray. And it's a lot of fun. It's challenging. And a lot of younger people were kind of in it this year. My daughter, she hunted with a friend of hers. They come back from college and hunted in it. And there was a lot of young teams. We had around 40 to 50 teams in it again. And so it's really growing. It's a fun day. Not a lot at stake. It costs you $20, throw your name in the hat. And then you win $400-$500. You can buy your gas and pay for your shells and whatever it might be, but it's more bragging rights than anything.
Yeah. What's your PB squirrel weight wise?
Oh, I did kill a squirrel here a couple years ago. Weighed like 3.18 or something. And I mean, I'm talking now that is a absolute
What's
giant.
that the equivalent of like largemouth bass on Grand?
That'd be like catching a 10-pounder at Grand.
Holy smoke, that's a mega squirrel.
It was, but now it was a little bit cheating. So a guy had been eating the deer for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And he said, I've got this squirrel that's coming up there. And he said, he looks like a groundhog. I'm like, what? So, but he got to where he was chewing a hole in his garage. And he's like, hey, come over and shoot this squirrel. It's chewing a hole in my garage. So anyway, we went over and shot a few. But when we shot this particular one, I'm like, we better weigh this one. And I think it weighed 318 is what it weighed on.
Did you put it on the wall?
No, but you could. You
should have mounted that sucker, dude.
I'm talking now. It was a big one, but I don't think we've ever had one weighed in over maybe about 245, 255. That's about the biggest one I've seen weighed in at the squirrel tournament. And that's a bona fide good one right there. That's a 180-inch deer right there. So
have fun driving to the Dakotas. Thank you. This was a very enjoyable conversation, Mr. Lawyer.
Always fun.
All right. See ya. All right. The one and only Jeremy Lawyer. We're going to take a break. Then when we come back, wrap things up at BTL on a Monday.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Before there were hashtags, there were handshakes and shared stories. They gave us confidence to make our first cast and chase our dreams. They taught us to fish, and in the process, taught us about life. They taught us that success isn't just about reaching the top. It's about lifting others up. The future isn't just about selling tackle. It's about 3 simple words. Let's go fishing. Here's to the original influencers.
I fish in some of the worst elements across the country. Spring, that's a giant, dude. Summer, oh my gosh. Hi, look at that thing. Winter, it's so cold. And fall, got a big one, that's awesome.
Being comfortable and staying dry is the only option.
AFCO, any fish, any water.
When I'm in a tournament, conditions are constantly changing and every second matters. With the Deep Dive app, I can instantly pull up all the current lake conditions all in one spot. So no more looking at weird government websites. In just one quick glance, I have water clarity, water level, wave forecast. It's all right there in the Deep Dive app. Download the Deep Dive app and get all the tools you need to put together an awesome tournament.
At Beatdown Outdoors, we know you depend on your gear to hold up in any condition. We built for that. We test for that. In fact, we pride ourselves in that. Because we know when the time comes to test your gear, you aren't going to take it easy, so we won't. We build premium, made-in-the-USA products that you can rely on in the moments when your equipment should be the last thing on your mind.
All right, welcome back. Wrapping things up here on a BTL on Monday. Dude, if you follow Jeremy Lawyer, the dude is amazing on the water, but also, like, if you're going to get lost in the woods, he's an excellent guy to get lost with because, like, he can, like, kill an animal, skin it, make a shelter out of it, start a fire with flint, go hunt something to eat, dig through the ground with a shovel, and then, like, reverse osmosis fresh water. Like, he's just one of those dudes, man. Looking forward to seeing how he does in the Bassmaster Opens this year. I want to know how he's going to do. He's going to catch him. As far as shows for the rest of the year, like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm headed to California, then I'm headed to Illinois. We'll be back. There'll be a time period there, the 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, going to do a final BTL of the 2025 season. So this isn't the end. It's the end of the regularly scheduled. Nothing on tomorrow, the 23rd. Want to wish everybody a safe and happy Christmas. Cannot thank you guys enough for another outstanding year of Bass Talk Live, and look forward to another crazy good year in 2026. We've got a bunch of stuff new that's coming that I haven't mentioned. Some more offshoots, not just Crappie Talk Live, but bringing in some regular contributors to BTL over the past couple years, and just stuff that we really enjoy. Focus more around the fishing community, the love of fishing, the storytelling that goes along with it, kind of why we all love this sport, this game so much. So stay tuned for that. Until then, like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you will be able to see when the shows are scheduled for the end of the year. So that's all we got for today. Merry Christmas. Have safe and happy holidays as you travel. We'll talk to everyone later. See ya.